This is asking what reference angle that you normally use would you think about to get to 22.5. So what angle is easy to use one simple operation to get to 22.5? The answer, of course, is 45 degrees. If you take 45 degrees and do something simple like divide by 2, you're going to get 22.5 degrees. Now, just like the double angle formulas, the half angle formulas also exist. The half angle identities, you can see we have sine, cosine, and 3 options for tangent. So, you'll also notice this plus minus in front of at least these 3 here. So, the ones with the square root, there's a plus minus because depending on which quadrant you're in, then you'll have to determine if, for example, sine is positive or negative. And if you notice here, sine of theta over 2 is either plus or minus square root of 1 minus cosine theta over 2. Cosine is really similar, and it's 1 plus cosine theta over 2. And of course, figure out positive or negative. And for tangent, there's 3 possible options, so use whichever one you're comfortable with. So for solving cosine of 112.5, what angle would be twice as big as 112.5? Well, you just multiply by that, and we realize that in our formula here, theta is 225 degrees, because that's twice as big as 112.5. So since it's cosine, we'll be using this formula, which means we're also going to need to know what is cosine of 225 degrees. Well, 225 degrees is in quadrant 3, and cosine of 45, which is the reference angle, is radical 2 over 2. So cosine is negative in quadrant 3, and it's negative radical 2 over 2. So, to solve this, cosine of 112.5 is the same as 225 over 2. So that equals plus or minus square root of 1 plus cosine of 225 all over 2, which is, again, plus or minus square root of 1 plus radical 2 over 2 all over 2. So we can take this 2 from the denominator of radical 2 over 2, and we can multiply it by the denominator of the entire fraction. So we're left with 1 plus radical 2 over 4. Now one thing you can do here is you can take the square root of the top and the bottom. So we have on top square root of 1 plus radical 2 all over the square root of 4. And since the square root of 4 is just 2, we're at plus or minus the square root of 1 plus radical 2 all over 2. Now it's time to deal with the plus or minus part. Since cosine of 112.5 is in quadrant 2, cosine is negative. So our answer for this is negative radical 1 plus radical 2 over